stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past, as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles, another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet. That flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn. As I go chasing the dawn. As I go chasing the dawn.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Halsey Live. I'm here to answer questions. I have a Twitter space open where you can join if you want to join the conversation, or if you want to send them to me by super chat or put them in the chat on the YouTube. I'm down. I want to answer questions. I really don't care who's involved. You can be a Groyper, you can be a Wignat, you can be a leftist. I don't care. I'm here to answer questions and see if anybody's got anything that they want to know. So, hold on. Someone's requesting here. Here we go. And I'm having issues with the Twitter space. Give me 1 second. So, you guys will be able to hear everything that's going through the Twitter space as well. So, let's see. Hopefully, people will come back. These Twitter spaces have been glitching like crazy. So, oh, excellent. People are starting to show up, and we will see where this takes us. I bet you it's going to be fun, though. We can get some people in here to ask some questions that just want to figure out what's going on. And I had a lot of fun today with Ian Burlingham. It's on the YouTube. You can watch it now. It will last about an hour and a half. We also, you can subscribe to my Substack. The information is in the description. So is my Patreon. Feel free to support my work or to just check in and see what I've written for the week. A lot of exciting stuff coming up, so I'm really excited about all that we've got going on. Now, I'm just waiting for some more people to show up. Ellie, how's it going, bud?
Going good. Long
Excellent.
time no see, right?
Yeah, I saw you a couple days ago. But I saw you in one of Apex spaces.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, that. Okay. Well, long time no see on your space, however.
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
obviously we know what's going to happen if we get a Muslim in here or we get a Hamas supporter. We're all just going to just gang up and flame them. It's just
Good. I
how
want
it
him.
goes.
I want him to know what I think.
I wish I could do it physically, you know? Like, you know, I'm no violent guy, but trust me, violence can come a long way when used in decent situations, you know? Especially when kicking and dealing with your local Antifa thug. Well, it's really good. Also, Edward, how's the shit in Ireland? Isn't it very dangerous? I don't know, for Jews.
Well, it always is. It's a stupid island run by stupid people for stupid people.
I've heard about the massive, massive amounts of anti-Semitism in Ireland. I'd assume you probably know a decent portion about it yourself, but where did this anti-Semitism in Ireland come from specifically?
Because the Irish have always been retarded on these things. So
Damn it,
it's
you.
not. I'm sorry, but it's just true. Like the Irish equate their own fight with the British to every retarded fight that's ever existed on the planet, and have somehow extrapolated that if someone is fighting a power that they don't like, that somehow they're in the right and everybody else is in the wrong. They've done it with 100 different causes. It's like pure societal retardation.
Yeah, that's it. 100% summed up. They think that they think that they can relate to what's happening in Gaza because at one point the British Empire were occupying Ireland, and technically the 7 counties up in the north are still under the occupation of the British Empire. But Gaza is not under Israeli occupation because, as we all know, Israel pulled out in 2005, and there's no such thing as the Palestinian people either. So Irish people are just stupid. Yeah, it's basically what Halsey said. It's just it comes down from Irish people being ignorant pigs and being too lazy to understand real history. That's what it is as well.
Well, I hate saying this, but a lot of it has to do with they're fucking Catholics, right?
Well, not really. Ireland
There-
is not a religious country anymore. It just isn't. It's been taken over by woke ideology. Irish people don't want anything to do with Catholicism or religion anymore.
Yeah, but their beef with the Protestants is it's framed in religious framework, but it's cultural framework, and that's what it is. Like they just don't like each other. It has nothing to do with their religious beliefs. They just don't like each other. So it exists in Scotland as well, and somewhat in Britain.
It's not always the same though, Halsey. I mean, there are a lot of people who just don't have those weird obsessive feelings about the past anymore. I mean,
Sure.
even myself, family in the UK in Manchester, and we go over and see them every day. Like, I don't have any issues with it about it in any way whatsoever anymore. It's over. It's a long time ago. If you're going to spend the rest of your life hating England or the UK for stupid fucking reasons, at this point, it's just, you're never going to move on. But yeah, like Ireland has
Oh, my
absolutely
bad.
nothing to do with what's happening in Gaza.
Most
Someone from the
definitely.
YouTube just said a long time ago. You said people who comment on Israel Palestine don't live in the area, so they don't really know what's going on. And he said he took it to heart. And I'm commenting that it's true that when you live in a Western bubble, whether it be in Ireland, whether it be in UK, whether it be in the USA, it's very hard to understand the way that cultures interact in the real world. There's levels of violence that you can't possibly imagine, and there's levels of or I should say lack of any type of empathy or anything like that exist, that it's very hard to grasp if you're not looking at it, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen like a person who can blow up a bus or do something like that. It's very hard to gather in the mind frame of what type of fight you're facing at that point. Because especially in America, we're very used to, like, most World War II veterans are dead. And Vietnam was just a shit show. But most Americans don't have a concept of watching their countrymen die like that on a regular basis. They have the 9/11, but that was like a one traumatic event. They don't understand what it means like to be under intense military attack from another people. And so when you comment on what's going on, it's very difficult to explain to people why it is people say what they say or do what they do, or why policies are created the way they are. But it's very easy to comment and just be like kind of ignorant about it and just be like, well, we all know that every human being just wants X, so why don't they just do X and X will work out fine? And it never works out that way. It's just, it's very difficult to put yourself in the culture of other people until you understand what's going on in that culture, or have lived in it, or have had friends die, or anything like that. You know?
Yeah, it's an incredible point. I mean, when in modern history, really, when America was attacked, you had Pearl Harbor, and then obviously the big one, 9/11. But yeah, there's never been any kind of real war on the ground in America that most modern people now can relate to. They just don't live in that kind of world. They see things on the news or on social media. My country's, it's not comparable though, Halsey, because I mean, my country's actually never physically been to war anywhere. We just sit on the edge of Europe thinking we know best about everything. And Irish people that definitely have this sort of mentality of, they look at the situation in the Middle East and they basically kind of live in this realm of historical revisionism, and they talk about things like colonialism and imperialism and all this sort of shit. And it's like, it's nonsense and it's head wrecking, because it has nothing to do with Ireland in any way whatsoever to begin with. And two, if you are going to talk about it, I wish they'd at least understand real history.
Well, in Ireland also, even during the Troubles, things were different. Like there was a goal in mind, and the end goal wasn't just to kill as many Brits as possible, right? In fact, a lot of times they would warn the Brits that a bomb was there. It was to make a political statement and create a political solution. It just used violence to do so. Whereas when you look at conflicts that go on in the Middle East, there is no political solution because no one's looking for one. They're looking to conquer another people, and the death of those people is the goal. So when you talk about like, oh well, people should negotiate these things out, how are you supposed to negotiate something when the end goal of the other side is to kill you?
Well,
If their end
that is the problem as well, because most Westerners now looking at this and talking about it, they're looking at it through Western minds, with a Western mindset, thinking you can just sit around the table and negotiate these things as if they would in the West. I mean, traditionally as well, most wars are won by one side winning and the other side losing, not sitting around table. You can't. The problem is as well with Islamists and Islamist societies, you can't reason with them because their goal is to conquer and destroy. It's conquest. That's why they say from the river to the sea, they want to destroy the expressing their genocidal intent for 2 years, marching in the streets about wanting to destroy the entire country of Israel
well, they've been
from the
doing it
river.
for 78 years, but and even
No,
longer. But the difference also is that the Muslim society in and of itself, while they see themselves as distinct people somewhat, like they see themselves as Saudis or Jordanians or anything like that, they still consider their victories and losses in terms of the greater Muslim world. So even if, you know, the Palestinians or the Jordanians want to go to war with someone, they feel like they're doing it for the betterment of the Islamic world, and they believe they're doing it by leading the Islamic world. So again, it's not that they've ever won or lost. Israel's sort of won plenty of wars and sort of never lost. But the Palestinians, even if you were to crush them into the ground, that wouldn't be considered a loss by them because they would consider it that the greater Muslim society was still existing to fight against Israel.
But
So,
Halsey, like, I mean, Halsey, even after 2 years, I mean, I started on the spaces with you. And where I am now after 2 years, even hearing the word Palestinians and Palestines is just really starting to piss me off. There's no such thing as the Palestinian people. They don't have their own
Same
language.
here.
They don't have their own culture. They don't have their history. There is no such thing. There's no such place as Palestine. Like, the region consists of Israel, as we all well know, the only free democracy in the Middle East and the only Jewish state on earth. Gaza, a terrorist hub that's been ruled by the Islamic Jihadist death cult Hamas since 2006, and Judea and Samaria. That is it. There's no such place as Palestine. It doesn't exist. And it's never
well,
going to exist. So I think if we keep using that word and acknowledging it, we're just breathing life into it. It is a lie.
well, you bring a very good point in that the way we look at these things is important because the wars in the Middle East are less about body count and more about creating facts on the ground, right? So with the Palestinians or whatever you want to call them, I don't even care. What winds up happening is it's not about whether Palestine is real or whether Palestinians are real. I don't really see any Arabs differently. Like they're all one part of the Arab nation, as far as I'm concerned. Their countries are more tribal than anything else. But at the same time, they're about creating a facts on the ground that the rest of the world has to kind of conform to in their weird quest to, as I said, create Muslim victories. So it doesn't matter at this point whether the Palestinians exist or not. It's the Arabs have created the facts on the ground that now those Arabs are considered different Arabs and need to be treated as either an ethnic minority or some sort of differential people or some sort of differential, DNA, anything. And in creating those facts on the ground, they create a problem for people fighting against them, because it would be easy if the government of Israel just constantly said there's no such thing as a Palestinian and this is ridiculous. But it would basically turn them into a walking conspiracy theory, because people would say, no, obviously they exist. Look, they're right here. They're fighting for a homeland, whatever. And you can't just say, well, no, they don't exist, because they've created that fact on the ground that they do now exist. So, and again, it comes down to then how far in history do you go back? Is there a such thing as an American? Or are they just people that moved there from Europe?
But
And
the United States of America is a sovereign established state. It's a country. Palestine never has been. It was a region.
yeah, but
You
that's
know,
you don't have to tell me the history of it. I know the history of it. But what I'm saying
I'm not
is that
for that.
acknowledging that it's just a piece of paper or a vote from an illegitimate body like the United Nations that creates a sovereign people. It doesn't. It's the
I
perception
get,
of those around you that do.
I get what you're saying. The point I'm trying to make, though, is if they did want to refer to themselves as Palestinians and have a sovereign established state called Palestine, then they could have accepted that during any of the 5 times they were offered that. But they walked away from every fucking offer that was ever on the table. They don't want that, Halsey. They want to destroy Israel, and I know you know that. Like, I'm not trying to have an argument with you, but
It's not
I
an
just think,
argument. It's a serious question, and you're bringing up something that's actually quite important. It's not that the Palestinians could have had their state anytime they wanted to. They don't consider Judea, Samaria, and Gaza to be Palestine. They consider the entire area of Israel to be Palestine, in addition to Judea, Samaria, and Gaza. So when they say they're fighting for Palestine, they've never wavered on the idea that they don't believe Israel has a right to exist in the land. They even have said, even during the peace deals, they said they'll acknowledge that Israel exists, but what they wouldn't acknowledge was that it was a Jewish state. They would say that Palestine should be, or Israel should be, a state of all its citizens, meaning that they wanted sovereignty and a Jewish free Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, but they expected that with their right of return, that there would be an Arab majority also within Israel proper, which would become part of the greater Palestine.
yeah,
You mind if I could just jump into the conversation? I'm
Please.
just trying to be little polite, My mum taught me good manners, so I thought I'd better put them to good use.
Okay.
But you're completely right. They're not only fighting for something that doesn't even exist, but they've got this stupid agenda. With the whole idea of how Islam has been over the course of its stupid idea of being over 1,400 years old, it should not even exist, because there's actually no real evidence proving that Muhammad actually exists, just word. But either way, what they did was they literally, after the Romans kicked us out, they just built on top of us, and all they know is lie, steal, rape, pillage, kill, subjugate, terror. And they only care for themselves. If they were to actually have their own little state, own little home in our land, which they're never going to have, but if they were, they wouldn't be happy, because not only would it be very different, but every other country, such as Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and as well as Egypt, would also take control of it,
Yeah,
really
but it wouldn't
leaving them
matter.
nothing.
No, let me stop you. That wouldn't matter. The point would be if they're able to take over and expel the Jewish majority of Israel, then it wouldn't be that they all of a sudden wanted their own sovereignty to be their own culture. They would consider themselves part of the greater Arab world. So again, they don't see this as a military victory over Israel. They see this as a military conquest of the greater Muslim slash Arab world. You know, and someone from the YouTube says the U.S. is what Rome was in the empire, but the U.S. turned multicultural instead of staying multi-ethnic but keeping the same culture. I would argue that the U.S. I was just talking about this afternoon too. I would argue that the U.S. did the exact opposite. They're not like Rome was in the empire in that they seek to conquer, but they don't seek to influence the culture of the conquered people. Rome accepted all the conquered people in as Romans as long as they weren't slaves. Like anyone who surrendered and just became Roman. And they all considered themselves part of the Roman experiment over time. In America, we expect people to maintain their distance and their own culture and country and all of that, but we expect them to be subservient, and there's a big difference in the two, you know. So I don't think that America resembles Rome in the empire. I think America probably resembles Rome more during the Republic. But I'm starting to shy away from the comparisons of the U.S. to Rome. I think EM hit the nail on the head today when he said that the EU is more comparable to the Roman Empire in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in Europe.
I didn't really know this, but it's like they obviously knew like the that the Arabs were obviously our worst enemies. So not only this though, the Palestinians also take the credit of not only what the Romans tried to do from when they occupied our land and they named it to Palestine. Um, they also try to go and say right now and for the past 2 years since this bullshit has started and we've had to live on edge that it's basically just become an excuse. We're going back to the olden days when the Romans tried to wipe away every single bit of history the Jews ever had in that land. And it's being adopted by the Arabs because they colonize and they want to remove any sort of trace of you from existence. To say, oh no, we were there first, even though they clearly were not.
So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm not agreeing with you either because I don't want to take up the bullshit mantra that Jews had it good in Arab lands because they didn't. But at the same time, if you're looking at the time where Israel was established, it's hard. It's kind of a hard job to say that the Arabs were the worst enemy of the Jewish people because we had just come out of the Holocaust at that point. So as opposed to just being treated as unequals, we were coming from a place where we were exterminated. Like there's a pretty huge difference between the two. The Arab, they don't, again, they didn't see us as the enemy. They saw us as the subject. They saw us as the conquered. So they were even fine when we were there before, but the moment that we tried to assert sovereignty, all of a sudden, they were up in arms. We're going to throw them all into the sea. It's going to be a massacre that rivals the Mongol massacre. And granted, there was plenty of violence before 48, but that was when the tide turned, where it wasn't just a question of a subjugated people. It was a question of extermination and can't live with these people anymore. And it was I think that go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, it was a good point. there was one part King was bringing up there, which I would agree with him, and I think you were kind of touching on it as well, Halsey, which is the idea of severing the Jewish people's connection to the land by the Romans when they conquered them and renamed it Syria Palestina, which is the Latin word which translates into invaded, to mock the Jewish people and sever their connection to the land. But you see this again now with what's happening now. The way Judea and Samaria is now being referred to as West Bank. I mean, the ancient kingdom of Judea, and this is the homeland of the Jewish people. This is where they come from, but they want to rename it West Bank, as if that's always been some kind of name for the area. It isn't. It's just another idea of, or another way of trying to sever the Jewish people's connection to the land, and it's
Well,
pathetic.
that's more than an Arab thing. I mean, just last night you had Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes on their show talking about how the people they hate the most in the world are Christian Zionists, right? It's not just the connection of the people to the land. It's the connection of the people in general. And that people who hate, whether it be Jews, whether it be Christians, whether it be Muslims, people who hate entire ethnic groups, their tactics tend to be either destruction of the people themselves or destruction of their culture and kind of unity.
But you're
And
sort of coming around to it again, Halsey. I mean, even when you're talking about things like Christian Zionists, I mean, when we look at that, first we have the Romans renaming the kingdom of Judea to Syria, Palestina. Then we have Judea and Samaria being turned into West Bank, and now demonizing words like Zionism. I mean, again, as everyone in the space probably well knows, and I was talking about this earlier again in another space, a Zionist is a person who believes that the Jewish people have the right to a nation in their ancestral homeland, and that the Jewish people have the right to self-determination in that nation. That's what it is. And I'm sick of people taking words and just bastardizing them and turning them into other things and historical revisionism. You know, it's all just driving me mad.
anybody, you got a question?
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of going on a rant. Go ahead, anybody.
I'm going to address what you said in a minute. Anybody, you got a question?
Yeah, I've got a question for Edward. Edward, I don't know if you're in Ireland, but I want to know how someone like you, who is not Jewish, has come to believe what you believe, given the tidal wave tsunami of people that are against your way of thinking in your own country.
I listen to smart people like Alex Eisenberg and read books and watch documentaries. But how do I cope? Don't. I've lost all my friends because of
it. Yeah, now he has to be friends with us because nobody else likes him. But I want to go back to what Edward was saying. Even the idea of Zionism, when you think about it, whether it be a Christian Zionist or a Jewish Zionist or anything else, just labeling the sovereignty of the Jewish people in the land of Israel as a Zionist, right, creates the dichotomy that there's something else, that there are people who believe that Jews have a right to the land of Israel, but that there's a legitimate movement that don't believe that. No other people really has that label put on them, in that some believe they have a right to it and some don't, right? There are some peoples that are an acknowledged people, but there's not a distinct movement of national liberation for them, as opposed to one who's trying to keep them unliberated, right? So when you consider that Christian Zionists are even considered Christian Zionists, it's, as I said, it's like adding another layer of complexity to what is a Zionist or what is a Christian. Like, why does there have to be a distinction between a Christian and a Zionist? One would think that a plain reading of the Bible would say that all Christians should be Zionist in some form. But the fact that there's the distinction made in the first place shows that there's a distinction. That
the words are just thrown around to demonize Jewish people and the country of Israel, though. I mean, to my mind, there's no difference between saying, I mean, it's like saying, oh, I don't hate Irish people, I just hate Irish nationalists. I hate nationalists, which means, oh, well, then I hate people who believe that the Irish people have the right to a nation in their ancestral homeland of Ireland, and I hate people who believe that Irish people have the right to self-determination. That's essentially what it's saying. But it's a mask, Halsey. It's a way for people to say they hate Jews, but I don't get to say Jews. I have to say Zionist because that sounds like a bad thing.
But I'm
I'm
saying there's never a question, like no one would question whether Irish people are native to Ireland, right? It's a ridiculous concept in the first place that someone from Ireland would not be Irish or not have some connection to Ireland, right? Even when they go elsewhere, like there are plenty Irish Americans, but they still have a connection to the land of Ireland. No one questions whether that connection has a right to exist. Like that's unique almost completely to Judaism in that a people who have never severed the connection to the land, have never in any way, shape, or form abdicated their right to the land. Somehow the question exists, are they even the people that are connected in the Bible? Like people will say, oh, they're Khazars or they're Polish or whatever it may be. They're just colonialists. But again, it's a very unique thing to the Jewish people that their claim to a land that's so obviously Jewish would be questioned in a way that their whole legitimacy of being would be questioned. It's a very strange thing in history.
It is, and it's an interesting one because I mean, even when you look when the Jewish people were pushed all over the world and kicked out of their country after colonization. Sorry, it's like they maintained that they kept the language, they kept the history and the culture and all the teachings and the food and everything that goes along with it. And when they came back, they have it. Like Jewish people speak Hebrew. I mean, that's when I go back to talking about the Palestinian people that don't exist, as we were speaking about them earlier. They don't have their own language. They don't have their own religion. They don't have their own culture. They just there is no difference between Arabs who live in Gaza and the ones in Egypt or Syria or Jordan.
Right, but
What?
if you'll notice those same Arabs that are no different from the ones that lived in Egypt or Syria or anywhere else, when they say, "Oh, well, there's a DNA connection from these Arabs to the Levant," right? So that DNA connection, however weak it is somehow looked at as being the be all end all of cultural and ethnic identity. But when Jews can show their DNA connection back to the land from ancient times, to the point where even like the priests, the Kohens, know that they're Kohens from back then, like it's been passed down generation to generation. Somehow that's not good enough to establish a connection of the people even together. It's like, no, they're Polish, no, they're this, no, they're that. So it's very odd that it's only the Jews that get this treatment, that get this kind of skepticism of their national identity, but at the same time it's considered a default for everyone else regardless of how false it is.
Yeah, it's interesting though. It's just everything. I mean, it's just crazy. Just when you hear stupid things, even I mean, you see it daily even on this app. It's like Jews run the banks, Jews run Hollywood. Like, well, I mean, are Jewish people not allowed to be successful? Like, I just don't get the whole thing. It's madness to my mind.
Well, think about it
Um,
this way: would those people be complaining if, let's say, I don't know, white people in general, like not a specific culture, like just white people in general, if they controlled all of America, every single institution, Hollywood, the universities, or everything, would they have the same complaint?
no,
Would they be saying, "Oh, this is wrong. America is 13% black. Why is Hollywood not controlled by 13% of black people?" Or
but it doesn't.
something like that.
Really, the thing should be is just like, well, thank you, Jewish people, for creating Hollywood and giving us all these great things. I fucking love Hollywood. I love watching movies. It's great. Why would you be out about it? See what the problem is.
The real issue always becomes that, and again, this is one of those cliche things that just happens to be true, that the Jews have always been the canary in the coal mine, right? It's that if you can defeat the Jews, defeating whoever you consider your real enemy is right around the corner. Like for Hitler, if you defeat the Jews, if you wipe out all the Jews, then communism falls and the world becomes fascist. For the Arab, if you defeat the Jews, the West is the inferior way of thinking, so therefore everything will become Islamic. It's the canary in the coal mine because, and again, it's one of those things that when you tell people this, they kind of look at you like you're being an asshole, but it's true. They don't hate me as much as they hate you. They just can't do anything to you. You know, they want to subjugate you the same way they want to subjugate me. They want to put you to the sword for not accepting Islam the same as they want to me. They just think that I'm an easier target. They think that they have a better chance of beating me now, which will make them strong enough to beat you later. So it's one of those things, like you can try to jump on the side of the conqueror and be like, oh no, we were always pro-Islam, but Islam is going to convert you or kill you, and that's going to happen. If Islam prevails, that's what will happen. And then everyone who says, oh, well, maybe it wasn't the Jews, they'll go back to their same insanity right after. What's up, Samantha?
We're talking about my favorite thing.
What's that?
This is about to get really good.
It's about to get spicy, everyone.
Common goyim inferiorists.
I understand the point, but again, I don't think it's just inferiority. I think that a lot of
It's not inferiority. It's there's a nuanced difference between inferiority and inferiorism.
Explain.
Inferiority is like
I'm
inferior.
genuinely curious.
Okay, so I made a post about it. Hold on, let me read what I wrote because it was like it summed it up really well. Give me one sec. It's like the pinned post on my profile. I said the concept of Jewish supremacy exists only for those who view themselves as inherently inferior to it. Does that make sense? It's not
Yeah.
inferiority is like an implied differential. Inferiorism is like a conceptual like ideology that exists on this contrived spectrum where Jews are superior. Not because we said so, but because you're saying you're like
No, I get exactly what you're saying. I've actually had this conversation with a few white nationalists where they basically say, well, the land of my ancestors is mine. It's being overrun by Muslims and brown people and black people and terrorists and all of that. It's like, well, you have to understand the concept of mine. If it's yours, then it's your job to either maintain it, keep it, or conquer it. You don't, if you're just sitting back thinking that the world is going to give you something because you had cool ancestors, like that doesn't happen. Like nobody just steps in and says, oh, here you go, you don't have to fight for it, we'll just give it to you. Like
it's not just about that, it's about identity. It's about like a claim to an identity that they feel entitled to but have no there's no merit to that claim, so they have to try and deride whatever merits exists for the claims that we can make.
Well,
they don't have the things they don't have the things that define. They don't possess the the congenital qualities or the I don't know, the other what makes us Jewish. They don't have it, and they covet it, and they want to like appropriate it because they feel that they are entitled to it because of their inferiorism.
Well, it's again, and I don't think it's just Judaism that does this. I mean, when you make an argument against feminism, right? It comes down to a very simple principle. Feminists want authority without responsibility, to quote TFM. And it's true that if you expect authority without responsibility, you're asking for supremacy to be given to you, because you have to be responsible for that which you have authority over. So if you just say, like, to you again use the example women, like, oh, women should be in more positions of authority in companies because there aren't enough women doing it. Well, if they don't know how to do it, they're not going to just fail, but the whole company is going to fail because they're not capable of doing it. They don't accept the responsibility of running the show. They're just saying, give me a shot. Now, compare that to a woman who works her ass off, goes to Harvard, gets the business degree, starts a company, and turns it into a roaring success. She doesn't need feminism. She doesn't need a leg up. She did what she did based on accepting the responsibility and the of having that authority, of being able to gain what she gains. The Arab or the white supremacist have that same problem, and I like the word inferiorist in that they expect authority regardless of any responsibility. They expect that things are going to be given to them as opposed to them having to earn them or in some way take them. And in doing so, it creates a victim mentality that just is basically asking for a different version of affirmative action. We all see how that turns out, right?
I think you're missing the point about the fact that it's specific to Jews, particularly with these fucking goyim inferiorists. You know what I mean? Like
Because I don't think it
they
is.
cannot, yes, they cannot suffer the fact that it is not them and us. And by that, by whatever this like ephemeral concept that I'm talking about, like it's our sustained existence. It's like our the gifts that we carry that they fucking covet. Like that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
I get what you're
It's
saying. I'm not
it's
seeing.
specific to Jews. Because they think that we are inferior to them. Like that's why they fucking peddle those ridiculous memes. Like they're the things that they've attacked us for over the centuries have not changed. Like it's just the technology and the way that it's shared and looks. It's not any different. There's nothing new under the fucking sun for these people. There is nothing new. There is nothing new. All of this is the same. It's just, how far it's amplified and how far it goes and the ease with which. But there's nothing new. It's still the Metzitzibapet, still the goofy Jews and the goofy Jews and their payot and looking like, you know, it's still the banks, it's still the fucking whatever, it's still, the Jews are doing this, the replacement theorists, all this shit. It is explicit, it is specific to the Jews. No other like group of people that is defined by something that like however you want to define it ethnographically or religiously or what culturally is subject to the same kind of like obsessive scrutiny and redundant blood libel like foolishness. Nobody.
See, I would agree with you, but there's a caveat to me agreeing with you in that Jews, being the smallest minority of people on the planet, basically, have also been the one that seemed to aggrieve most parties, in that Christians and Muslims, which make up the vast majority of the world, are of the opinion that their theology has replaced ours, and our lack of acceptance of that theology is an insult to them personally. So it's almost like if we're destroyed, it validates their theology. I'm not saying this is all. I'm not saying this is like a conscious
But
thing
that's
of
the
like,
covetousness. They
right,
covet that. They covet that position that, like, is our mantle. So
right, but
stupid. Like, yeah,
but again, it's weird because they don't covet it because we actively fight against their theology. Like very rarely will you see a Jew try to like take a Christian and be like, your theology is false.
no.
Your
In
whole
fact,
life.
we're like, please leave us the fuck alone. No one
Yeah, we're
cares.
basically indifferent to it, and I think that indifference breeds more resentment than
Actually,
hostility.
I don't mean to be dismissive of like Christians who like to talk about where our theologies align and how there are Christians who get it. This is not to dismiss like Christian beliefs, just as a caveat. Also,
No, I understand that. That's why I would probably stop the conversation if it was just that, because this isn't the vector for it. But again, it's it's more of a, like you said. I'm liking the word inferiorist more and more. Is that it's more along the lines of, we want to maintain a cultural heritage. We want to maintain a link to our people from ancient times. we want to experience the same level of cultural advancement that you guys have, but at the same time, that hasn't really happened. Like, remember the
Well,
real
for certain Christians, and I say like Christians, call them pseudo Christians because I don't even want to conflate real Christians with the capital C with like these fucking sacrilegious pseudo Christians who and also Muslims for this fucking matter. When you have to assert the things about your belief system in a way that diminishes other people's or that attempts to eclipse it and claim that this is it because the second and third iteration said so. I don't know that that's legitimate. I think you need to find another way of fucking peddling me your shit. I don't care. Like it's cheap and it's fucking, it's such a poach. It's such a low poach, especially Muslim, especially the Muslim one. It's like the most low rent uh you know iteration of bastardization. I don't even want to say iteration. It's not even iteration. It's a literal bastardization of our texts and our teachings. Like, ew, go find your fucking own, you disgusting fucking diabolical poachers. Get the fuck out of here. Who are they fooling? Why are we even tolerating the fact that like it's nothing but that? And not just a fucking bastardization, an utter like inversion, a diabolical inversion.
again, I
Why do
don't.
we have to pussyfoot around it? Like that's the long and short of it.
I mean, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with what you're saying. What I am saying is that I don't see the diabolical nature of it in and of itself. Like, there's plenty of rabbis throughout history who have said that obviously these things were created by Hashem himself. So if they were, what is their purpose? Is it to spread the Noahide laws? Is it to spread the knowledge of Hashem? Like, we don't know
I
the grand
appreciate that.
picture.
I appreciate that too. I totally get where you're coming from. But like both of those things can be true at the same time. Like Hashem could have let for the most like demonically subversive inversion of like whatever is like good and holy according to Hashem. And I don't mean like our individual things. We all fall short of that. I just mean like our, what we were mantled with as a nation. Um, of course, but like, and also look at subsequently who's revealing themselves because of that. All of these other common low people who align with Palestinianism, like Alex says,
Mm-hmm.
Palestinianism and communism and trannyism and like these fucking crazy things that are meant to like erode civilization. It's not
I
just it's not just Islam. It's those people too. This is why I agree with you on what you were saying is that it's all from Hashem. And I'm
and
glad. I'm glad sorry. I'm glad they're showing themselves to us. We need to know who they are.
well, I
We
mean,
need to know who their children are when we
I
get
think
them.
I think we need to know that if you're a Jew, you believe in Rambam's 13 Principles of Faith. You believe that the Messiah will come, right? And even though we don't know what day, we always are waiting for him to be here. And as I said, there's some opinions that the creation of things like Christianity and Islam and all of that are there so that when the Messiah comes, everyone knows who Hashem is, that they're, you know, connected in some way. And that again, it if that connection is proven, if when Mashiach comes, if everyone's united under God, there is the prophecies say they'll plow they'll bang their what's it called, they'll bang their pruning hooks, what was it, their swords into plowshares or whatever it is. But again, why would there be war amongst people if everybody's united under God? And someone from the show says, that Tuvia Singer will actively rebut Christianity. I've had those debates. I had a debate with Brother Nathaniel about that. I've had those debates theologically, and I wasn't talking about that. I was talking more along the lines of just discounting it as being a false prophecy and trying to then recruit onto my side. Like, I don't care what anybody, you know, I don't care what anyone else believes. Like, if that brings you happiness and that brings you, wholeness and good things for your family, I'm not one to argue against it. So, it's I can argue against the theology of it, like what is the basis in the Bible for what you're saying compared to what was said in the Bible. That I think is an academic exercise more than anything, though. And now I forgot what I was going to say. But I don't know. I do think that in terms of the Israel Palestine conflict, though, what you're saying is incredibly important, because when you see people that are out there simping for Islam, right? Then it's not just an inferiorist thing; it's a inferiorist thing combined with some level of inherent supremacy, in that they believe that the destruction of us will be the destruction of what they consider to be an enemy. So you just have to look at what they're trying to destroy to see that these are people that hate not just me, but you. Like, not just Jewish people, but Christian people, whatever it may be. Like, when we say that they're there to destroy the society, that's exactly, like, they'll openly say that communists will say that trannies for Gaza should be a thing because they both have the same enemies and are looking to dismantle the same systems. It's like, I mean, seriously? Like, you can't find two things more diametrically opposed than those two things. Yet for some reason, they've connected in order to fight against us. So someone just go ahead, Ellie.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, the boomerang theory, right? Where you have two different people, like, the trannies for Gaza, where you want to call them, and you have the Islamists, right? Who we all know Islamists hate the Troons. They push them off of buildings around the Middle East, but the Troons see them as enemies, right? Because, Western imperialism, quote unquote, Western ideas and all that they claim to hate. So that's that it kind of reminds me of the boomerang theory, in effect.
I mean, for sure. Someone just asked me, "What's my well?" No, before someone makes a good point. Rome thought it was the Jews, but after they destroyed Israel, Rome was still screwed. In fact, I would go say it's safe to say they were worse. That after they destroyed Israel was when the disintegration of the Roman Empire started, and it only got worse from there. And it basically culminated in them accepting a Middle Eastern religion that tore apart the empire and basically gave freedom to all the conquered people. Rome lost any sense of itself when it destroyed Israel because they thought they were destroying just a physical enemy. They didn't realize they were destroying a people and an idea and a belief that was going to overtake them. And it's kind of a cautionary tale. Like, okay, like there was no reason at the time, especially for Rome and Israel to have not coexisted. It was that Rome decided that their way of being was more important than anything else. Well, not only did they lose their nation, they lost their way of being as well. And it's funny because it was done the opposite. It wasn't like Rome fell apart and then they accepted Christianity. They accepted Christianity first, meaning their belief system that they conquered Israel for fell apart first, and then their country itself fell apart. So it's one of those things where you say, like, if you're going to deny a belief in God, then don't be surprised when he gets pissed. And I'm not just talking about the Judaism, but I'm saying that if you believe in the Bible, whether it be the New Testament, Islam, Judaism, whatever, no one disputes the fact that God is a vengeful God, that he doesn't like being mocked. And if you're going to mock him and think that your pathetic gods like the Romans did, are stronger, then in the end of the day, God's gonna show everybody what's up. What's up, Ellie?
He's gonna kill your fucking firstborns.
In regards to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, though, just in how it's gripped Western civilization, still just scares the shit out of me, Halsey. I have a bunch of books which I'm finding it hard to get time to get around to them, but I've started Douglas Murray's new one on democracies and decals, and the first 3 pages focuses on October 8th, particularly in New York, and the protests that were going on there before Israel had even responded. And you had the streets lined, and they had all their slogans and calling it genocide and resistance and all this sort of stuff. And the fact that that's kept up even till 2 years later, and these people have made it their lives and their entire personality, and they're still expressing these genocidal intents for the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people, and wanting to replace it with another failed Islamic state called Palestine. It's just crazy. I mean, even in my own country, the Israeli embassy is actually closed here. It's gotten so bad. But we have an embassy for Palestine, a country that has never existed, ever, in the history of the world.
So someone just asked something that's very relevant to what you're saying. Someone just said, what's up with Tucker Carlson, Theo Von, Candace Owens, etc.? It seems like we have a retard problem on the right now. No, it's not a retard problem. It's an online problem. In that, and I'm one of those people. I knew Tucker was going to do this from the moment he left Fox News. I've been talking about it to anyone who would listen. In that, when Tucker was on Fox News, he was edgy for the boomer Fox News viewer, right? Once he left Fox News and decided to open up an internet show, he wasn't even close to edgy anymore. In fact, if he tried to maintain like the Tucker from Fox News, he would have been laughed off the internet because everyone was, oh, he doesn't have his eyes open, blah 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 blah. Also, that it comes down to where your funding comes from. When you work for Fox News, or in Candace Owens' example, you work for the Daily Wire, you're being paid a salary. You're making money based on what you do for the company. When you're on your own, you have to appeal to where your audience / where your money is. And with someone like Candace Owens, she's just basically trying to claim the mantle of Alex Jones. She figures that the crazier she gets, the more she's going to attract people from the internet, and she's kind of right. Tucker is doing the same thing. Tucker's a little more nefarious, though, because he took all that Arab money in order to start his show. But
But the issue with that is when I started what I was saying before, is what scares the shit out of me is the fact that they can have their platforms, but does that really mean you have to stop being a decent human being?
That would assume they were decent human beings to begin with. Like someone like Candace Owens, her first jump into the public sphere was to open a site doxing conservatives. It was called Social Autopsy. Like, she's been a piece of shit forever. She just, wherever she's going, she just figures out what demographic she wants to fuck over to appease the audience that's paying her. She's been doing this from the very beginning. First it was black people, then she broke with the Daily Wire and it was Jewish people. Now she's just completely insane. And Tucker, it's the same thing. Like, he tries to make it seem like his break with Fox News was over the whole Dominion voting thing. But it was because he got sued. He got Fox News sued for sexual harassment and for a whole bunch of other things because supposedly he was abominable to work for. So instead, by going to the internet, he now doesn't have a boss. He has a master. There's a difference, right? Fox News expected a certain level of professionalism from him, which he didn't do, so they let go of him. But on the internet, he has a master, and his master is, as of right now, Qatar. But so he's just taking those skills of, remember, Tucker's not a reporter. He's not an investigative journalist. He reads shit off of cue cards. So he's basically an actor. So he took his acting skills from Fox News and just brought them to crazy town Arab conspiracy world. And you'll see he's going to do nothing but get worse. This is how his bread is buttered right now. Like, this is how he remains relevant. I find it a little weird because he doesn't need the money, you know, but at the same time, it makes me wonder what, like, is it just to stay relevant? Is it to stay important? Does he think that in the future these things are going to be more mainstream? Does he think people will never fact check? I don't know. But Tucker is not going to get any better. In fact, if history is a guide, Tucker will probably try to influence more mainstream movements such as TPUSA and places like that by bringing his brand of crazy there, and then just denying the crazy is there. So like he acts like what he's saying is the most common normal thing that you'll ever hear. Like, remember, he's just asking questions, but he never accepts any pushback on this kind of shit, right? So and then he acts like he doesn't understand why people don't like him. You know, like, oh, how could they dislike me? Like, I haven't done anything. I just want everyone to be happy and peace to reign in the world and everything to be fantastic. Like, no, that isn't what you want. You want influence, you want culture influence. So you've decided to take the first class train to Crazy Town, which no one's denying you have a right to do. But I think that the people that are listening to Tucker have a very sad awakening coming for them, because if Tucker guides your worldview, you don't have Tucker's money. And when it comes down to it, Tucker is going to be fine. And if you start walking in to, you know, your job talking about being possessed by demons and shit like that, like, you're just going to find yourself without a job. And as I said, you don't have Tucker's money.
Yeah, and again, it terrifies the shit out of me that someone would allow themselves to be manipulated that easily.
Yeah, but
They just never.
most of them don't realize they're being manipulated.
See, stupidity has driven me to fear.
But that's the thing, is that most people don't realize they're being manipulated. Most people, it's a common human desire to want to be in the know, to want to be able to figure out the things that other people can't see. The problem with the internet is that it's a lot of these takes and theories are so retarded and require you to do no investigation whatsoever. Like, Candace Owens is claiming now that the proof that Charlie Kirk was assassinated was there was no blood there. I mean, maybe I wasn't there when everybody was watching him get assassinated, but there was a ton of blood. In fact, that was the most devastating thing about watching
I
him get
saw a
shot.
video of that. It's all over his neck and everywhere. It was horrible. Like,
Right.
you can physically see it. So how could you make a conspiracy theory claiming that there wasn't any blood when you can physically see it? I can pull up a video of it right now.
Because again, she's appealing to intellectually lazy people. She's appealing to people that are just going to go, "Oh, there was no blood," and just assume that's true, right? As opposed to actually knowing that it's not true. So
I think we had this conversation before, and generally the answer just comes down to laziness in the world, doesn't it? Shortcuts, I suppose you could say, on social media if you're going to spend time on the internet. If that's where you're getting your history from.
well, that's what a lot of the internet is. It's authority without responsibility, right? Like, Candace Owens claims the authority of being an investigative journalist. She just doesn't take any responsibility whatsoever for all the bullshit that she spews. Same thing with Tucker. They're just asking questions. They're just raising ideas. They don't take responsibility for the bullshit they spout. You know, and I bet you in private, if you ask them about it, they would probably be like, "Oh yeah, that's just total bullshit." Like, you know, whatever that person said was nonsense.
And
But
it also helps the fact that a lot of people on social media, I've noticed this before, it's a new level of retardation with these people. Um, where they would just believe the most obvious lies ever.
again, it's because, and I will say this, and this is one thing where it isn't everybody's fault. COVID was responsible for a lot of this, because there was so much bullshit coming from the government during COVID, and especially after it, after they stole the election from Trump, that people became naturally skeptical of whatever they hear from an official line. So they're willing to accept, like, really out there ridiculous shit as opposed to just accepting whatever those in power say, which is a very stupid way to be, but I think it's going to get a lot worse when it comes to that. Like, again, when was the last time you heard a journalist say, like, Candace Owens all the time claims her proof is that she just knows it in her gut. And Tucker Carlson says he was possessed by demons and that the demons told him what was right and wrong and all that shit. So how do you argue with that level of stupidity? Like, how do, like, oh, well, Tucker says this. Yes, but Tucker said he was influenced by a demon and that's what brought him to that conclusion. And it's kind of like, well, how do you argue with that? How do you go be like, well, the demon was lying,
Well, I think the
or
problem in the first place is if someone is saying, "Oh well, Tucker says," it's like, well, why are you listening to a man on the internet? You know what I mean?
well, it's also, and you're going to see this get so much worse with things like Grok and Google AI, is that nobody looks into anything themselves. No one looks into the competing ideas that led to a factual statement. So if you ask Grok, like, did the Jews do this? And Grok is just evaluating a holistic piece of information, they're going to say, well, yes, technically the Jews did that. And you're just going to move on instead of looking into what actually came about and brought that conversation about and what both sides said and what's true and what's not true. So it's basically just critical thinking, and we've outsourced our critical thinking for a very long time now, but we're just making it worse with every new invention that we have to take away critical thinking. If you don't have to look into it, if you don't have to actually think about things and go to sources and find out what both sides are saying and find out what's true and what's not true and things like that, if you're not capable of doing that, then you're going to become a zealot for a cause that makes no sense. Like,
Yeah, that's a great point, and it brings me back to what I was trying to talk about with historical revisionism, and not using critical thinking and not learning. Again, going back to the Israel-Palestine or the Israeli-Arab conflict, like the big one again when you listen to a lot of these people or anybody talking about this from the other side when they talk about what happened in 1948. Because I'm sure everybody in this space has heard numerous times, well, it didn't start on October 7th, 1948, Nakba. These are the words that I use. So I say 1948 and Nakba. But, like, they never mention the fact that Egypt, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan started that war. Like, the narrative now in people's minds is, oh, Israeli colonial settlers came over from Europe and stole the Palestinians' land, even if it wasn't their land at all. But they
and
did, like,
I'll keep saying it. I'll keep saying it,
they
and
don't
then
talk about these things in reality, and you're leaving out everything. Like, it's very easy to make this up when you're leaving out like 90% of the information and just throwing in words like 1948 and Nakba.
I agree with you. But I'm going to say this again. Then I'm going to go to stress, and then I gotta shut it down for now. I gotta go feed my kids. But I just keep repeating this to yourself every single time you have one of these ridiculous questions in your mind, right? Authority without responsibility. What they want is the authority to say there was a catastrophe in Palestine, but they're not willing to take any responsibility for their part in it. They're not willing to accept that they invaded another country and lost. They're not willing to accept that most of them left voluntarily. So they want that authority of going, oh, well, it was a catastrophe for us. Well, then maybe you shouldn't start a fucking war, right? Like, it's that simple. If you don't start a war, you don't get your asses handed to you, and catastrophes that you claim are catastrophes don't happen on the whole. So the idea that they, and again, every time you see something like this, just say it to yourself, oh, this person's asking for authority without responsibility. This person has no responsibility whatsoever. Like, that's why when you ask a Jew about something like the history of Israel, they'll majoritively say, like, this is what happened, and they'll try to spell out like the whole scenario, even things that don't make them look good, right? But in the end of the day, they're willing to accept the responsibility for their part in anything. They're claiming the authority of, well, in the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether the war was fought cleanly or not. It doesn't matter if the war was happy or not. In the end, we won. This is our country. Go get fucked. So the responsibility is there of like, yes, this is how it happened, and yes, this was the result, and if you don't like it, that's too bad. Whereas they want all their authority of, oh no, this was our country, this was this, it was conquered by this, it was the evil this, it was evil that, and in the end they want no responsibility for anything. Stress, what's up? And then I gotta go. Raylan, that's the only reason I'm not bringing you up is because I'm closing it down after this question.
Well, good sir. I didn't realize you were about to cut this so short because I was about to throw in a hand grenade and get this a little heated. But maybe another time, good sir. I'll let you get going.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll try to reopen it a little bit later. I just wanted to jump on for a few minutes. I'm trying to get this all straight where I can go to YouTube and ask questions from all different places. But other than that, I want to talk to Raylan. So, you know what, Raylan?
Send me an invite when you get that figured out, because I mean, if I can not get screamed at, I got some questions for some people. So
I don't scream at.
I know you don't. I mean the audience. If they can be in good faith and accept that, hey, I'm trying to learn here and not yell at me, I'll come back and throw some grenades in here.
We'll try to hook it up a little bit later, but I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys, for coming, and I will see everybody soon. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Halsey. Good chat.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country, and that is what I will always do.